Welcome to today's lesson, students. So today I am going to discuss the exercise from your textbook that is related to the Unit 9, Heat. So you all can remember what we have already discussed. What is heat? It is a form of energy, the thermal energy because of the kinetic energy of molecules of the substances that are always undergoing motion. And this heat energy can transfer from high temperature to low temperature. And what is temperature? It is the measure of heat. And thereafter, you all can remember we discussed the different types of thermometers that are used to measure temperature. Then we discussed what heat transfer is. Thereafter, we looked at the different types of state changes that take place when you provide heat to a substance. So, under that melting point, boiling point, we have discussed the latent heat of fusion, latent heat of boiling. All those are familiar to you all. After that, we have also discussed the expansion due to heat, thermal expansion or expansion caused by heat, as well as the contraction, and how we use the expansion taking place in solids, liquids and gases for our own uses. Also, we learned that heat transfers from one point to the other, and this heat transfer takes place in different ways. That is conduction, convection and radiation. So with all that information and the knowledge you have, I am sure you would have already answered the questions in your textbook. If not, answer it first by yourself and then you can listen to this discussion. I will start off with the first question. Fill in the blanks of the sentences given below. So the first sentence, the international unit used to measure temperature is what? It is Kelvin. So here we can write it as Kelvin, or else you can write the symbol capital K. That is the unit. And the international unit used to measure the amount of heat is what? Joules. And that is written as Joule. Or again you can write the symbol capital J. So both these are named after the different scientists who were related to these different types of measurements, heat measurements as well as temperature measurements. So that is why the symbols or the unit standard units have to be capital letters. Kelvin capital K and Joule capital J. The second one, the absolute zero is equal to blank Celsius. So you all know if it is absolute 0 Kelvin is the normal absolute temperature. Otherwise, if we give it in Celsius, it has to be minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. That is the exact absolute zero temperature in degrees Celsius. But for our calculation purposes, we take it as minus 273. So, since this is a fill in the blank question, the absolute zero is equal to minus 273.15 Celsius. So, I am writing the exact value. Third one, the blank does not change when absorbing latent heat while the blank changes. So, what is that? You all know when substances undergo state change, solid to liquid, that is melting or fusion, and liquid to gas, boiling. What happens there? They absorb heat. The heat is used to break the attraction between the constituent particles. So, therefore, there is no temperature change, but still we need to provide heat. And what do we call that? The latent heat. So, the temperature does not change. That is what we have to say here. Temperature. The temperature does not change when absorbing latent heat while the physical state changes. So here you can write state changes, but to be more specific, we can write it as physical state changes. The fourth one, The method of transferring heat without the influence of a medium is what? It is radiation. So, you all know there are three ways of transferring heat: conduction, convection and radiation. Conduction takes place in solids, convection in liquid and gases. So, those two need a medium, whereas radiation occurs without a medium. So, it has to be radiation. And you all know, students, radiation is also referred to as thermal radiation. Then the fifth one, bodies having low specific heat capacities increase their temperature how? Quickly. You all know normally metals have low specific heat capacity. So they can absorb heat quickly, easily, and the temperature increase is faster. Whereas say things like water, it has a very high specific heat capacity. So it takes a longer time, or you need to supply more heat for the temperature to rise. So bodies having low specific heat capacities increase their temperature fast. Bodies with high specific heat capacities increase their temperature slowly. So that is how you fill in the spaces. If we go through the questions again, the international unit used to measure temperature is Kelvin, and the international unit used to measure the amount of heat is Joule. The absolute zero is equal to minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. Here it's given as Celsius, that is okay. Or else we can even write the degrees here. Minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. The temperature does not change when absorbing latent heat while the physical state changes. The method of transferring heat without the influence of a medium is radiation. The bodies having low specific heat capacities increase their temperature faster. Bodies with high specific heat capacities increase their temperature slowly. So, those are the questions for the first one. Then we will move on to the next question. So, the second question. Two cups of the same size and shape made out of two different materials are filled with equal amounts of hot tea and are allowed to cool down. Cooling curves plotted by measuring the temperatures of the two cups at definite time intervals are shown below. So, this is a cooling curve, students. When we say cooling curve, you can see that there is a decrease in temperature with time. So, that is the process of cooling. So, here you can see cup A has been shown in red color and cup B in blue color. Those are the two curves. And if you look at the two axes, the y-axis is temperature, that is the change in temperature. So, that is calibrated or that is plotted with time. Time is given in the x-axis. So, temperature versus time, that is the plot. So, that gives rise to the cooling curve because the temperature decreases. The hot tea is cooling down. And here you can see, students, the room temperature is marked. But you can see all these values are given to you. You all can remember, students, normally or when you all draw graphs, you all use a graph paper as well as you mark all these points. But in this particular graph, the points are not marked exactly. So, therefore, what you can do is you can mark it by yourself first. And then it will be easy for us to get the values. So, if I go to the question again, you can see the two cups are of the same size. So, let's say if we have two cups like this, one made of a certain material and the other one made of another different type of material, but both of them contain the same amount of tea. So, here the mass or the volume of tea is the same and they are of the same shape and size. So, what is the difference? The difference is the material. This is the difference. So, when we say difference in material, what does it give rise to? they will have different specific heat capacities. So the way they absorb heat and release heat or lose heat is going to be different. Or else you can say the way they conduct heat to the environment is going to be different. So that is why the two cooling curves are different. So to understand what happens here and to identify the points, we will use a ruler and we will mark the points first. So here I am going to use the ruler here. So if we start from the 0 line, that is with the y-axis, so then I will mark the points there. So here this is of course easy. This is the 5-second mark. We will mark 5-second mark. We will mark it here. Then 10 seconds. Again, it has to be, you can see this point is less than 2. So here we will take it somewhere here. And this is the 15 minute mark that can be marked somewhere at that point, and the 20 minute mark we will take it here. So now you can see the points, that is for the time. So the temperature has been measured every minute and the x-axis has been calibrated as 5, 10, 15 and 20 minutes. The same way, if we mark the temperatures here, we need to have the ruler properly, and you all also can do this, students. Right. So here this is the 0 mark. So then you can see 0 here. I will mark this point as the 10 degree Celsius mark. Then here you have the 20 degree Celsius mark. So again about 8 millimeters for each one. So then we have the 30 Celsius mark here. This is the 30 Celsius mark. 40, 50, 60 here, 70, we will have this as 80. So you can see the initial temperature, that is between 70 and 80, we will take that value as 75 degrees Celsius. Now this point we will take it as 75 degrees Celsius. So normally for y'all students, they will give you all the proper graph. This is also a proper graph. Only thing is the values are not exactly shown to y'all. So what we do is we take a certain value so that we can understand the concept easily. So that is how we will take the values there. Initial temperature 35 degrees Celsius. So the room temperature is shown here. That is slightly less than 20 degrees Celsius. So that is how the cooling curve is. So using this, now we will try to answer the questions. So if we look at the first question, what is the temperature of the tea in cup A after 5 minutes? How do you find that? Now here you can see this is the 5-minute mark and you need to find the temperature of cup A. So there what we can do is we can use broken lines or even the normal lines. So 5 minutes to cup A. So we extrapolate this graph up to here, and if we draw another line, you can see it's almost 50 degrees Celsius. We will take that as 50 degrees Celsius. Then what is the time taken for the temperature of the tea in cup B to drop by 30 degrees Celsius? So the change has to be 30 degrees Celsius. So initial temperature, as I told you, we will take it as 75 degrees Celsius. So for the drop to be 30 degrees Celsius, what should be the final temperature? It should become 45 degrees Celsius. So 75 minus 45 will give you a difference of 30 degrees Celsius. So for the temperature to come to 45 degrees Celsius, how long does it take? So here you can see, again if we use another line, 45 is about somewhere here. So from there, if you draw a line to point graph B, that will be at this point. What is the time taken for the temperature of the tea in cup B to drop by 30 degrees Celsius? It is going to be less than 5 minutes. So here again students, we have not separated this. It's almost like 4 minutes. If you divide this into 5 parts, you can see it's almost like 4 minutes. So we can take the time period as 4 minutes. Then the third question, what is the difference in the temperatures of the tea in the 2 cups after 15 minutes? So that is going to be at this point. After 15 minutes, what is the difference in temperature? So here you can see, again we have to draw 2 lines and get the temperature difference. So from here, from cup A, if we draw one line, that is about 30 degrees Celsius. And from cup B, if we draw a line, it is a little more than 20 degrees Celsius. Let's say we can take it as around 23 degrees Celsius. So what is the difference? There is a difference of about 7 degrees Celsius. So what is the difference in the temperature of the tea in the 2 cups after 15 minutes? We can take it as 7 degrees Celsius. Which cup is made out of the material with the lower heat conductivity? So what is the cup that has lower heat conductivity? Less heat conductivity means it does not lose heat to the environment quickly. So it takes a longer time to cool down. Out of these two, you can see cup B has reached room temperature at the end of 20 minutes, whereas cup A is still hot. Compared to cup A has a certain temperature, higher temperature. So that means cup A is made out of the material with the lower heat conductivity. And what is the reason for your answer above? This is what you have to explain. Cup A takes longer time than cup B to reach room temperature. So that means the ability of cup A to lose heat to the environment is less. So therefore, it has a lower heat conductivity. Then the sixth one, what is the ultimate temperature of the tea in the 2 cups? So when you say cooling, what happens there? You all can remember we discussed thermal equilibrium. Always heat transfer takes place when there is a temperature difference. So until the temperature of the different substances become equal, there will be heat transfer. So until the tea is hot or has a temperature greater than room temperature, it will lose heat to the environment. And once it reaches the room temperature, then thereafter there will be no heat loss to the environment. That is what you have to write there. So I am sure you all have understood what we need to do now. Now let us answer the questions. So the first question, again the question is given to you. You can see the graph, but you can remember the values now. What is the temperature of the tea in cup A after 5 minutes? So we saw that the temperature in cup A was equal to 50 degrees Celsius. I will go back and check the temperature again. So here you can see cup A after 5 minutes, it is 50 degrees Celsius. So here the value is going to be 50 degrees Celsius. Then what is the time taken for the temperature of the tea in cup B to drop by 30 degrees Celsius? So I told you all, if the drop has to be by 30 degrees Celsius, initial temperature was 75 degrees Celsius. We took the initial temperature as 75 degrees Celsius. So the difference has to be 30 degrees Celsius. That means the final temperature has to be 45 degrees Celsius. And we found that it was about 4 minutes for the cup B to drop by 30 degrees Celsius. It is less than cup A. What is the time taken for the temperature of the tea in cup B to drop by 30 degrees Celsius? We can take it as 4 minutes. So, is that okay, students? Then the third one. What is the difference in the temperatures of the tea in the 2 cups after 15 minutes? After 15 minutes, we calculated that as well. After 15 minutes, what happened? Here you can see the plot. So, cup A, it has a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. So, we took this as 20 degrees Celsius. So, I said we can take this value as about 23 degrees Celsius. So, cup B has a temperature of 23 degrees Celsius. Cup A has a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. So, to answer the question, what is the difference in the temperatures of the tea in the 2 cups after 15 minutes? So, after 15 minutes, temperature of cup A is 30 degrees Celsius and cup B, we took it as 23 degrees Celsius. So, what is the difference? So, here we can say temperature difference. That is going to be 30 minus 23 degrees Celsius. That's 7 degrees Celsius. So, again students, here we are trying to understand the concept only. The values, if you mark the point slightly differently, you might get slightly different values. That is not a problem. But the important thing is you all need to know how we answer these questions. So, as I told you before, when you all are given a graph for an examination purpose, you will be given with proper calibrations. And so, otherwise it will be a graph paper on which you draw the graph. So, it will be easy for you to identify the values. So, here according to what I have marked, with the calibration, there are also, when you saw, I didn't exactly count the points and mark the temperatures. So, therefore, this might slightly differ. But as long as you understand the concept, that is correct. So, then we will move on to the next question. Which cup is made out of the material with the lower heat conductivity? So, what did I tell you all? When something has a lower heat conductivity, it takes a longer time to lose heat, or what we call as insulators. Substances that cannot conduct heat easily, they are insulators. So, lower heat conductivity means they don't lose heat easily. So, that means it takes a longer time for the cup to reach the room temperature. So, from the 2 graphs, we came to the conclusion that cup A has a lower heat conductivity. That is why it still has a higher temperature after 20 minutes, whereas cup B has already reached the room temperature. So, the answer to this question Which cup is made out of the material with the lower heat conductivity? It is cup A. And what is the reason for your answer above? So what I explained to you all, you have to write as the reason. Cup B reaches room temperature after 20 minutes. But cup A has a higher temperature. That means it loses heat slowly compared to cup B. Therefore, material used to make cup A has lower heat conductivity. Then the next one. What is the ultimate temperature of the tea in the two cups? What is the ultimate temperature? I told you all before, heat transfer takes place when there is a temperature difference. But when the temperatures become equal, there will be no heat transfer. So that means from the tea, when it is at a high temperature, heat is lost to the environment. So once the tea reaches the room temperature, there will be no heat loss to the environment. So what will be the final temperature? It will be the room temperature. So what is the ultimate temperature of the tea in the two cups? We will write it as room temperature. Room temperature. So according to the graph, when I marked the values, we took the room temperature as about 18 degrees Celsius. As I told you all before, students, if we have the exact value, you can write that here. Otherwise, since the value has been marked as room temperature, we can write it as room temperature here. So do you all understand the question? I am sure you have understood the concept behind the question. Although as I did, you might have slightly different values because of the points marked there. Apart from that, the concept is the same. So this is how we answer this particular question. With that, I will move on to the next one. So the third question, the figure below shows the cross section of a thermos flask. We have discussed the thermos flask before also. You are used to that because you all must be using it at home. So what happens there? You can see the cross section. So outermost layer, you all can see it is marked as the external case. And you can remember, students, the external case is usually made up of plastic or a shiny metallic material. Mostly it's plastic because you all know plastic is a very good insulator. And there is a casing, means there are two layers. So in between the layers, there is vacuum. That's why we call it the vacuum flask. So there are thermos flask, vacuum flask, both mean the same thing. Again vacuum, so that it doesn't easily allow heat to go out. We all know, students, Normally through vacuum, it is only the radiation that takes place. But here, to prevent radiation, what do? They have a silvery shiny. Here you can see silver colored inner wall, so that the radiated heat will be again reflected back into the liquid that is there, or into the flask itself. So it will not be conducted out of the flask. That is the thermos flask. So here you can see external casing, and inside the container, inside the flask, there is hot water, and you can see the silver colored inner wall of the thermos flask, and also in between there is the vacuum, that is between the external casing as well as the inner wall. Because of that, the loss of heat is prevented. And here again you can see the lid. That is again a plastic lid, and normally it is a very tight lid. So it doesn't allow any air to escape out. So it prevents the convection from taking the air, along with it the heat from going out. So by doing all this, we prevent the heat loss to the environment, so that here it is hot water, the temperature of the hot water will remain the same. Or to retain the heat of the hot water, we have this thermos flask. Then if we look at the questions, there are two situations that a thermos flask can be used. What are they? So you know the two situations. There are 500 milliliter of water at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius inside the flask. In order to keep the water at this temperature, heat loss has to be prevented. So there is 500 milliliter of water, 100 degrees Celsius, that is boiled water. So to prevent heat loss, what are the techniques used here for this purpose? So already I have discussed the techniques. We have to write them down. Then the third question, calculate the amount of heat loss occurring when 500 milliliter of water at 100 degrees Celsius cools down to the room temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. The specific heat capacity of water is given to you as 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. It is not appropriate to remove the hot water from a flask and fill it with cold water immediately. What is the reason for this? So those are the questions. We will answer them one by one. The first question. There are two situations that a thermos flask can be used. What are they? What are the two situations? So you all know, students, we can have a hot liquid inside and we can maintain the temperature of the hot liquid, preventing heat loss to the environment, or else we can store cool liquids inside that. Say a cool drink, and we can prevent the liquid from absorbing heat from the environment. So we can maintain the temperature of the cool liquid as well. So two instances, either hot liquid can be stored or cool liquids can be stored. So there are two situations that a thermos flask can be used. What are they? If we write down the answers, we can say retain the temperature of hot liquids, that is one, and the other one is retain the temperature of cold liquids. So those are the two instances. Then there are 500 milliliter of water at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius inside the flask. In order to keep the water at this temperature, heat loss has to be prevented. So here the important thing is heat loss has to be prevented. What are the techniques used here for this purpose? What are the techniques? We have discussed them. We will start from the top. So you can say plastic lid. So the first one, plastic lid is used to prevent hot air from escaping the flask. That is, it prevents heat loss by convection. Always, you all know, hot air goes up, but it cannot go out of the flask because of the plastic lid. That is one technique. What is the next technique? Again, there is an external case. So, external case made of an insulator. Here we can say again plastic. So, in the first one also, students, instead of saying plastic lid, you can say a lid made up of an insulator material. So, within brackets, we can say it is plastic. So, external case made of an insulator material prevents heat loss by conduction. Then what do we have? You all can see there the vacuum. So, vacuum space again prevents heat loss by conduction. Vacuum prevents heat loss by conduction. So, you know, through vacuum, heat transfers by what method? Radiation. But their radiation is prevented how? Using the silver colored inner wall. So, that is the next method. Silver color colored inner wall reflects the radiated heat back into the liquid. Therefore, heat radiation does not enter the vacuum. So, using all these techniques, heat loss from the liquid to the environment is prevented. The same way, heat will not be absorbed from the environment into the flask. So, if we go through the answers again, there are 500 milliliters of water at 100 degrees Celsius. So, we need to prevent heat loss to to the environment. What are the techniques used here for this purpose? The first one is plastic lid is used to prevent hot air from escaping the flask. That is, it prevents heat loss by convection. So here, as I told you, instead of writing plastic lid, you can also write it as a lid made out of insulator material. Then the second one, external case, again made of an insulator material, that is plastic, prevents heat loss by conduction. Sideways through solids, it's conduction. So that is prevented by the insulator material. Then the vacuum that is present there between the silver color inner wall and the outer casing, that prevents heat loss by conduction again, because conduction needs a medium. For conduction to take place, there should be a solid medium. There is no medium there, so the conduction of heat is prevented. But then, through vacuum, radiation can occur. That is prevented by the silver-colored inner wall that reflects the radiated heat back into the liquid. So here it's hot water. Therefore, heat radiation does not enter the vacuum. So those are the techniques used to retain the heat of a hot liquid. I am sure you were also able to write all these techniques. So with that, students, I will move on to the next question. Calculate the amount of heat loss occurring when 500 milliliter of water at 100 degrees Celsius cools down to the room temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. And the specific heat capacity of water is given to you as 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. So as I always do, students, normally I write down all the data. So here we have the volume of water. We have 500 milliliters of water. So how can we get the mass of water? You all know when we need to calculate heat, what is the equation we use? Q equals ms theta. Q is heat, m is mass, S specific heat capacity, and theta is the temperature change. So we need to find mass. To do that, what do we need? We need the density of water. So here, if we take density, we can take it as 1 gram per centimeter cube, or you know it is equal to 1000 kilogram per meter cube. I took 1 gram per centimeter cube because it is 500 milliliters of water. And with that, you all know centimeter cube equals milliliters. So from there, if you find the mass of water, that will be equal to 500 grams. Why? 1 centimeter cube, 1 gram per centimeter cube is equal to milliliter. So 500 milliliters equals 500 grams. If you want, you can substitute it in the equation and calculate. Still you get the same value, 500 grams. So we know the mass. Specific heat capacity is given to us as 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. And theta is what? Here, always we calculate the theta, final temperature minus initial temperature. Final temperature minus initial temperature. Here, what is the final temperature? The liquid is cooling, water is cooling down. So, final temperature is 25 degrees Celsius and the initial temperature 100 degrees Celsius. So, the theta is going to be minus 75 degrees Celsius. That is theta. So, here students, you don't have to write all these separately, but for you all to understand, I have written down everything. You can directly use the equation heat loss equals Q, that is equal to mc theta. What is M? 500 grams, but we need to convert that to kilograms. So we need to divide that by 1000. That also you could have done it before also. Divide by 1000 and substitute as 0.5 kilograms. That is also okay. Then what is specific heat capacity? 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. And then we have the theta, that is going to be minus 75. Here degrees Celsius and Kelvins are same, so I will take it as Kelvins. You all know when we use the change in temperature, degrees Celsius and Kelvin, the quantity value is the same. So there it's in Kelvins. Then if we look at the values, the zeros can be cancelled off. You can cancel off the kilogram and kilogram minus 1, Kelvin minus 1 and Kelvin. And there is another 0 that can be cancelled off. So you will get the values as 5 into 420 into minus 75, and the unit is going to be joules. So we need to multiply and get the values there. So to do that, so we will just do the calculation here. 420 into 75. So it's going to be 0, 0, 21. Then again 0, 4, 28, 29. So when we add those values together, we get it as 31,500. But then we have to multiply this by 5. So then again multiply by 5, 0, 0, 25, 25. So there has to be a 2, 5, 7 and 15. So 157,500 joules. That is the value there. Hundred and 57,500 joules, but here you can see there is a minus value. So that means there is a minus here. We multiply by minus 75. Here I only did the calculation with the values without considering the unit because it is a multiplication. So it's minus 157,500 joules. What does that mean? I told you all before also, when we get the heat change as minus, that means heat is evolved. So that is what we were supposed to calculate. So here we can write heat evolved equals 157,500 joules. Or you can even convert it to kilojoules and write. But we can just leave it as it is. Is that okay, students? So I will go back and again we can just go through the calculation. You know the values. 500 milliliters of water. So we need to convert it to grams. We need to get the mass of water. So to do that, we need the density 1 gram per centimeter cube, and centimeter cube is equal to milliliters. So you will get the mass of water as 500 grams. Then we have the specific heat capacity 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. And theta is always final temperature minus initial temperature. If you calculate, final is 25 degrees Celsius, initial temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. So you get the theta as minus 75 degrees Celsius. So when we calculate heat loss, that is equal to Q equals MC theta. And you substitute the values there. You can see 500 divided by 1000, so that we get the unit in kilograms into 4200 into minus 75. So when you simplify, you get it as 5 into 420 into minus 75. We did the calculation here and we got the value as minus 157,500 joules. So the heat evolved. When you write heat evolved, you don't have to put a negative there. Here Q negative means when you get Q as a negative value, that means heat is evolved. So when you rewrite this as heat evolved, you can write it as a positive value. So that is the quantity of heat that is evolved or lost to the environment when the water, 500 milliliters of water, cools down from 100 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. I am sure you were also able to do the calculation correctly. So with that, students, I will move on to the next question. It is not appropriate to remove the hot water from a flask and fill it with cold water immediately. What is the reason for this? You are familiar with thermal expansion and contraction. So when there is hot water inside the flask, the surface or the container is made up of glass, and glass tends to expand due to the high temperature. If you remove hot water and immediately pour cold water into it, then what will happen is the glass will contract quickly. So because of that, the expanded glass undergoing contraction at a rapid rate will cause the glass to crack. So to prevent that, we should not fill the thermos flask with cold water immediately after removing hot water from the flask. That is what you have to write here. You can say, when there is hot water, the inner glass container undergoes thermal expansion. When hot water is removed, and cold water is filled immediately, the glass will undergo rapid contraction. From the expanded state. This will cause the glass to crack. So therefore, it is not appropriate to remove the hot water from a flask and fill it with cold water immediately. What is the reason for this? So this is the reason: when there is hot water, the inner glass container undergoes thermal expansion. When hot water is removed and cold water is filled immediately, the glass will undergo rapid contraction. So from the expanded state, and this will cause the glass to crack. So therefore, we should not do this. I am sure you also gave a similar explanation. So here the important thing is, students, you have to mention the thermal expansion when there is hot liquid and the rapid contraction due to the cold liquid. So therefore, the cracking of glass will take place. If you mention that, then your answer is correct. So with that, I will move on to the next question. This is the fourth question given in your textbook. In that, the first part, find the heat released in cooling 10 gram of water at 100 degrees Celsius down to 25 degrees Celsius. So here also it is the cooling of water. Then the second one, a burn caused by steam at 100 degrees Celsius is more harmful than a burn caused by boiling water at 100 degrees Celsius. Explain this answer. So those are the two questions. We will answer them one by one. The first one, find the heat released in cooling 10 gram of water at 100 degrees Celsius down to 25 degrees Celsius. So if we try to do that, you know the equation, heat is Q equals mc theta. So what is m here? 10 grams of water, but we need to convert it to kilograms. So we have to divide it by 1000 kilogram. And C is not given to you, but you all know what is the specific heat capacity of water. 4200 joules per kilogram per Kelvin. It was there in the previous question also. So you know the value. And what is the temperature change? Theta. That is equal to, again, 25 minus 100 Kelvin. As we know, degrees Celsius and Kelvins are equal when it comes to change in temperature. So if we try to calculate the value, you can see here, we can simplify this first. So we can cancel off the zeros. The zeros here, kilogram and kilogram minus 1, Kelvin minus 1 and Kelvin. So then you will get the remaining values as 42 into 25 minus 100, we know it is minus 75 Kelvin. So the answer will be in joules. Why? We are calculating heat. So if we multiply 75 by 42 or 42 multiplied by 75, then we will consider the negative value there. So this is going to be 0, 21, then 14, 1 and 28, 29. So you will have 5, 11, 3. 3150. That is going to be the value there. So then, this is going to be minus 3150 joules. That is the amount of heat that will be released when 10 grams of water at 100 degrees Celsius cools down to 25 degrees Celsius. So this is how we calculate. So if you want, you can rewrite as heat released equals 3150 joules. So is that okay, students? You have to have the mass in kilograms. So 10 divided by 1000 kilograms. 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin is the specific heat capacity, and the temperature change final minus initial 25 degrees Celsius minus 100 degrees Celsius. So 42 into 75, you get the answer as minus 3150 joules. So heat released is equal to 3150 joules. That is the answer. We will move on to the next question. The second one, a burn caused by steam at 100 degrees Celsius is more harmful than a burn caused by boiling water at 100 degrees Celsius. Explain this reason. What happens there? You have water, 100 degrees Celsius. It becomes steam at 100 degrees Celsius. We need to supply heat. What is this? It is the latent heat. Why do we supply latent heat? In order to break the intermolecular attractions between water molecules so that it will be converted to steam. So that amount of heat will be present in steam, but that is not there in water. So that means although the temperatures are same, 100 degrees Celsius water, 100 degrees Celsius steam, but steam will have more heat energy. That is the concept of latent heat. There is no temperature change, but there is heat being absorbed. So therefore, steam at 100 degrees Celsius will cause more damage or more harm to a burn than water at 100 degrees Celsius. So if we write the explanation, you can say, when boiling water at 100 degrees Celsius absorbs latent heat and becomes steam at the same temperature. Therefore, steam has higher amount of heat than water. Thus, steam at 100 degrees Celsius can cause more harm than water at 100 degrees Celsius. So that is the explanation. So when boiling, water at 100 degrees Celsius absorbs latent heat and becomes steam at the same temperature. Therefore, steam has higher amount of heat than water. Thus, steam at 100 degrees Celsius can cause more harm than water at 100 degrees Celsius. So, here it is important to mention that steam contains the latent heat, or water absorbs the latent heat and becomes steam, so that the heat content of steam is greater than the heat content of water, although their temperatures are the same. That is the important thing. So, I am sure you also explained it in a similar manner. So, with that, students, I will move on to the next question. That is question number 5. A piece of paraffin is at room temperature. You know what paraffin is. Paraffin wax or candle wax. That is paraffin. A piece of paraffin is at room temperature. Investigate the changes occurring in it when the temperature is gradually increased and temperature measurements were plotted against time. The following graph was obtained. Answer the questions given below using the graph. So here is the graph. You can see the y-axis is temperature and x-axis is time, and that is given in minutes. So can you remember, students, the first question? We saw that there were no lines. The values were not directly indicated to us. But in this graph, you can see all the values have been indicated clearly to us. So we can get a very good idea from this graph about what happens to paraffin at room temperature on heating. So here you can see the initial temperature is given as 25 degrees Celsius. So that is the room temperature. Then what happens? They increase the temperature by providing heat. So you can see after 2 minutes or at the end of 2 minutes, the temperature becomes 55 degrees Celsius. And thereafter, you can see from 2 to 3 minutes, the temperature remains the same. That is again 55 degrees Celsius. And then still they are heating the wax, or heating the paraffin. So you can see from 3 to 4 minutes, again there is an increase in temperature from 55 degrees Celsius to 70 degrees Celsius. So from this graph, you can understand there is a state change taking place. Normally when you provide heat and if the temperature doesn't change, means there will be a state change. So it was paraffin at room temperature. When they say piece of paraffin, solid. So here the solid becomes liquid and thereafter temperature of liquid increases. So if we look at the questions, what is the room temperature? It can be easily read 25 degrees Celsius. What is the melting point of paraffin? So as I told you, there is melting taking place. Solid wax becomes liquid wax or liquid paraffin. So that is the melting point, that is 55 degrees Celsius. Then how long after commencing the experiment did the paraffin begin to melt? That also you can read easily after 2 minutes. Then what is the reason for the temperature to remain constant in the time interval between 2 minutes to 3 minutes? That also you know that heat is absorbed as latent heat of fusion. So there is no temperature change. And fifth one, if supplying heat to paraffin was stopped at 4 minutes, give a rough sketch to show the variation of the temperature of paraffin with time thereafter. Then what will happen to paraffin? It will cool down, come to the same point equal to melting point. What is it? Freezing point. And there again, it will solidify and come back to the room temperature. So you have to sketch that as a graph. So now that you all know what you should do, we will answer the questions one by one. The first one, what is the room temperature? So easy to read, room temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. What is the melting point of paraffin? It is 55 degrees Celsius. And how long after commencing the experiment did the paraffin begin to melt? That also you can see from the graph. How long after we begin the experiment does the paraffin begin to melt? That is after 2 minutes. So here we can say after 2 minutes. So I am sure these answers are the same as what you have written. So we will move on to the next question. What is the reason for the temperature to remain constant in the time interval between 2 minutes to 3 minutes? So what will you write there? In this time interval, paraffin melts. The heat is absorbed as latent heat of fusion. This does not lead to an increase in temperature, although heat is supplied. So that is the answer. What is the reason for the temperature to remain constant in the time interval between 2 minutes to 3 minutes? In this time interval, paraffin melts. The heat is absorbed as latent heat of fusion. So this does not lead to an increase in temperature, although heat is supplied. So there we give the complete answer as to why the temperature does not increase. But we are mentioning that the heat is being absorbed by paraffin to be converted from solid to liquid. That is latent heat of fusion. So that gives the complete answer. Then the next one, if supplying heat to paraffin was stopped at time 4 minutes, give a rough sketch to show the variation of the temperature of paraffin with time thereafter. So here as you can see, it has been heated up to 70 degrees Celsius, that is till time 4 minutes. So after that, if you stop providing heat, what will happen to wax? That is what we have to show in the plot here. So for that, we need to draw the graph. So I will be needing the y-axis, then the x-axis. We will have to label the axis, x-axis time, and there you can see it's given in minutes, so the same unit here as well. So the y-axis has to be temperature, degrees Celsius. So as you can remember students, there we supplied heat. So the change in temperature or increase in temperature took place very quickly. That's why all the changes took place within 4 minutes. But now the heating has been stopped and there is going to be natural cooling. The wax is going to lose heat to the environment and it's going to cool down. So there is going to be state change, because now the wax is in the liquid state. So it is the liquid wax. And we need to mark the temperatures again 25, 55 and 70 degrees Celsius. So I will mark the temperature as 25 here. That's the room temperature. Then 55. That is the melting point of solid wax. And 70, that was the temperature to which the wax was heated. So then what will happen? When it starts cooling, will it be a straight line? No. Why? Here there is temperature difference between the wax, the liquid wax as well as the environment, but it's going to lose the heat gradually. You can remember the cooling curves of the 2 cups. We did a question before in this exercise. So there it is a curve. So we will get a similar curve here as well. But the temperature change has to be up to 55 degrees Celsius. So starting from 70 degrees Celsius, the wax will cool down in a gradual process like that. And when it reaches 55 degrees Celsius, what will happen? It will solidify. So there the temperature will remain the same for a certain time period. So here there is going to be constant temperature. So initially it cools down, then there is going to be constant temperature. Again, after all the wax solidifies, what will happen? Still it will lose heat until there is thermal equilibrium reached. So that is until the wax reaches the room temperature. Until then, there is a difference in heat. So there again, the wax will start losing heat, and that also until it reaches the temperature 25 degrees Celsius. So till that point, it will keep on cooling. So here you can, up to that point, you can see it cools down. So the difference here, there we get the straight line because we provide heat externally or we supply heat. So the change is fast within 4 minutes, and also the increase in temperature is given by a straight line. But here, since it's a natural process, when there is decrease in temperature, it's going to be a curve. And then when there is a state change, the temperature remains constant. Again, the temperature decreases. And there also you can see when the temperature difference is high. When it's 70 degrees, the drop is faster. But when it comes closer to 55 degrees, it cools down slowly. The same way, from 55 to 25 degrees, initially the temperature decreases faster, then it slows down a little. So that is because of the difference in amount of heat in wax as well as the heat of the environment. You all know when there is a difference in temperature only, there will be heat transfer or heat loss from one object into the environment. So that is how we are supposed to draw the graph. So I am sure students you all can understand why we have this difference. So we can draw this graph separately, and here as you can see I have not marked the time as well because we don't know when it is the natural cooling how long it will take, and obviously you all know it will be more than 4 minutes. This is from your experience. To heat something you need a little time, but when you allow it to cool it takes a longer time. So that is how we have this graph. And that is the last question that is there in your textbook. So with that students, I have completed this chapter where I discuss the questions from your textbook, but I will be discussing additional questions in the next chapter.